Top of the morning to you, and I dare say happy Tuesday to the 5th day of August in this blessed year 2026. My name is Francis Ofulue, saying happy Eid al Malud to you this morning and saying welcome on behalf of the board, management, and staff of this brilliant place called Delta Broadcasting Service, Asaba. With me is another gentleman, one who is vast, eloquent, and ready, also finds it all joyful or joyous when he talks about issues that concerns the country, whether that uplifts or that bedevils the country. Nobody else but my friend on the job, Ogaga Ikama. He loves to call himself Ogaga Ikama. Good to have you.
Good morning.
Happy Del Malud.
I wish you same, although I'm not part of this celebrating, but I wish you same.
You can say that. Basically, for anybody who's not here, who's not working today, I can say that to them, whether you're a Christian or a Muslim.
Exactly.
Public holidays.
Yes.
And for us who had to journey down here, it was good for us because there was no traffic, no gridlock, nobody rushing. It was just an easy ride down to the station. So I felt a little of that pulse.
But in
No
Asaba,
pressure.
usually is there really traffic?
Depends.
Except that McDonald's area where people try to beat traffic and go against traffic
It was
laws.
free today. It was free today. People relaxed at home. And that feeling generally, I'm not amongst those who, when they have power failure, the first thing they do, the average Nigerian, is to look around. If everyone else is in darkness, they have some kind of joy in their heart. And if there is light around your neighborhood and you don't have the light, you begin to feel bad. I'm among those who will be happy that others are happy. Yeah, so when I saw that people were relaxed this morning while coming to work, that was enough for me to say, oh yeah, happy Eid al-Malud to me. And then for the Muslim brothers, the birth of Prophet Muhammad means a whole lot to us. And if you hear the way they respond when we talk about anything concerning the Islam, they say, peace be upon him. And Islam has been said to be a religion of peace. So this reminds us about what it means to hold on to Islam in this country. It means peace, and we say, let that peace reign in Nigeria. Let there be oneness, unity, and let us all of us embrace our diversity. See it as a way of, being together rather than being apart. There are some who believe that we serve one God. Whether that is true or not, one thing is certain. We have the same color of blood with the same people, regardless. And every religion propels us, matter of fact, compels us to embrace peace. And we say, peace be upon him, the great prophet Muhammad. And we love what has happened and how the Islamic religion has grown. We know some of the challenges that several religions go through. But we say today, happy Eid al-Malud to our Islamic brothers. And to you enjoying the public holiday, happy Eid al-Malud to you as well. For those who want to go to the bank today, I'm sorry, but happy Eid al-Malud.
I was lucky. I was lucky. I almost forgot because
Yes.
I had to. As a matter of fact, but you called me yesterday and I told you
Yeah.
I was in the bank.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had something to do, but I was quite tired yesterday, and yesterday was relatively not my day off because I had to still come to the office in the evening. But I was tired. I needed to rest, and I was thinking, should I push it to today and come to the bank? It was. I knew Tuesday was public holiday earlier. I'd already told my mom sometime last week. But when I got to the bank, that's when it dawned on me that if I had pushed it, if I had procrastinated, it would have been dicey for me. I would have found myself in a tough spot.
Yeah.
So thank God I went to the bank yesterday.
I'm glad. for you. Now, speaking about the gridlock that we have not seen today, this morning, one might argue that Asaba is relatively peaceful when it comes to traffic jams and the rest of them.
Yeah.
We are not oblivious of the Benin Abo expressway that has suffered gridlock for the time being. It's not something that people love to see when you are journeying and your means of movement is held by gridlock. It could be one of the saddest things that one could ever really face. So at this point, we'd encourage you to, if you have anyone who is about to apply that route, you can advise them about trying to take other routes to get to their destination rather than being held up to that gridlock.
Yeah, it's very disturbing because it's not just a destination issue. It affects us economically,
Yes, it does.
and it also has security concerns. Now, I was watching a report of stranded persons there. Do you know that some people reportedly spent the night on the road?
What's that?
So imagine you being on a trip. I even saw somebody that was making a video from the person's statement. The person said they've been there like 2 days on the road, traveling to Lagos. So you can imagine how stranded one would be. Some person said even foods that imagine you're embarking to make you intend to make a 3 hour or 4 hour journey, and it ends up being 12 hours and they are stranded. Food, they are concerned about their security. Some persons, maybe the next morning you come out and start trying to get maybe a toothbrush and toothpaste to wash your mouth, and it's really not palatable at all. And also, you see some articulated vehicles that have fallen, capsided on that road, and products on the floor. So it's a very, very disturbing. It's something. Now, some persons have tried to be political about it, taking a swipe at the Edo State governor, saying, "Oh, look at your state. You went to another state to campaign." Now, I'm not bringing politics in, but we have to understand that that is a federal road in itself. Am I saying that the state governor cannot facilitate the process or do something about it? He can, but let's not politicize it and say, "Okpebolo, you've not done." It's a federal road, so the onus, the primary responsibility is on the federal government. And I'm glad that people are speaking out, travelers are speaking out, those that apply the road are speaking up, residents of the states, they are speaking up, so that something should be done. It's been years. It's been years that that road has been in that dire situation. And we also know that roads like this, they are death traps, and kidnappers, they tend to take advantage of bad spots.
Yes, they do.
So let's not allow that point become a flashpoint for insecurity.
Yeah, it's quite sad if you recall. It was 2021 thereabout. There was this rumored 1.46 billion naira that was earmarked for that project. Yet the project has still been left there. Good news is that I don't know if I should say good news is that the Works Minister says it's going to be there today, Tuesday, the 5th of August. It's going to be there. We expect to have him there to see for himself and have. People have criticized the federal government that you spend time doing all her roads and you don't maintain the ones that are already there.
Thank you.
That has been the criticism against the government, albeit I understand to some extent. Every government, for its ambition, would want to have their own project.
Legacy project.
Legacy project. At the same time, I understand what the governor of Delta State has done, where he first paid attention to what his predecessors, not just predecessors had done, finalized them and then pushed into other projects. A beautiful way to go. I would also advise the same for the country entirely. Like you said, this is not a political matter. It's about doing what is right. Because the first thing people thought, when they heard Bini Asaba, Bini Agbo, they thought about Delta State, thought about Edo State, and some are talking about the federal government. But I would say all hands should be on deck. All the states involved should be on deck because it affects everybody. You know, people are trying to carry their goods, just like you noted, from perhaps Agbo down to Asaba. And Asaba people are going to suffer for it. Deltans are going to suffer for it. In the same vein, those from Asaba are going to Agbo and the rest, and those traveling, it'd be a very terrible thing. And even if the gridlock wasn't there, as you also noted, kidnapping, it's easier around roads that are bad. Okay? Before you can even turn to reverse. We've heard stories about those who notice some not so nice scenario and just reverse with speed. But now when you see that, how can you reverse? It's as if you're giving the kidnappers a sure way to go. There are many things really making the nation wonder and struggle to sit up. One of those things involves fuel subsidy removal and the rest of them. And we have seen politicians take advantage of the situation. Recently, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar said he's going to put back subsidy. If he wins the position. Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but one thing I remember, is that all the major political parties during the last elections all campaigned to remove fuel
Atiku
subsidy.
inclusive.
Yes, whether Peter Obi, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, they all said they were going to remove fuel subsidy. So while we can throw aspersions and throw stones at the incumbent president, let's be aware that our preferred candidate actually subscribed to removing the fuel subsidy. I'm also glad that somebody's coming up with the option of, I would place back fuel subsidy. It gives Nigerians the option to choose. This time is when the federal government should take enough time to sensitize Nigerians on the reason why subsidy removal is paramount for the progress of the nation. It's at this point. Because if we don't get properly educated, we might return to where we don't want to be. For instance, we all remember 2012 and how the campaign from Goodluck Jonathan and the wonderful Delta's own Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, doctor, by the way, so everybody correct me. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala talked about how fuel subsidy should be removed, and Nigerians were angry with her, including the incumbent president. Remember, it was very heavy. Everyone said it was a wrong move, and there were campaigns, protests, strike upon strikes. And it was removed. The whole idea was just stop dead. Fuel subsidy was left in the system, and Nigerians continue to live happily ever after. Fast forward to years after, and we went back to the same phase, remove fuel subsidy. So it's important that Nigerians are educated to know what they want. This is not about, there's no right and wrong right now. There is choosing what you believe is the best way forward. So you cannot be right or wrong. You can only be wrong if you decide based on sentiment. If you decide based on misinformation or disinformation or no information, that's when you're wrong. But if you have an idea about what is going on, what do we need, maybe for now or for later, that would help you entirely. So while we see what the one-time vice president is saying, I'm going to return fuel subsidy, let's also look at what the incumbent president is saying. I want to ensure that fuel subsidy is removed, and let's see the one that's most visible and good for Nigerians to go. And that is why the MBA conference is having that big conversation right now. When lawyers gather to discuss about issues, when the learned people gather to discuss about issues, we know that the everyday Nigerians might enjoy. And even during that conference, there's a controversy there, because I gathered that the not so light-skinned colored man, very dark man, was invited, and that has raised several whispers here and there. People saying, how would you allow very dark man to be around the place of elites, place of learned men? I'm sure he's not going to be wearing a suit and tie. I'm sure he's going to come there with a singlet and some scary necklace and the rest of them that he puts on. He's supposed to be there, and that has caused whispers. I read this morning, that's why I was surfing through social media. A friend of mine was very angry about, he was supporting the idea that very dark man should be at the conference, saying that this is somebody who brings out the truth unfiltered. And maybe it's time the elite sits down to listen to the voice of the streets and know how to marry it for the betterment of Nigeria. Whatever it is, the big conversation, one of the big conversations around the MBA conference is one of fuel subsidy.
Yes, now let me pick up from very dark man. Okay, I really can't say if the okay. Of course, the MBA conference apparently from even the invited guests is not just for lawyers, but very dark man is someone that to some persons we pass for an activist. So I think that when these kind of conversations are had,
he says not activist, though.
Yes, but that's why I say some persons. So when these kind of conversations are had, I think activists can come to the fore. It's a good place to hear activists out, because like you said, there are people, they feel the pulse of the common man. People, stories that don't make it to mainstream media, these people get them, they verify them and push for all of that. Then the issue of subsidy. Yes, I agree that there might be no right or wrong depending on your approach. However, what the one-time vice president has said, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, now got some persons thinking that, do you really have something you stand for? Because or you are just pandering to the whims and caprices of the Nigerian people, playing to the gallery, so you'll be voted into power.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was as though the major presidential candidates as of 2023 said they were going to remove fuel subsidy, and you joined the bandwagon.
And you probably did your research.
Yes, yes, you understand. I believe, we want to believe you did your research. That's what you made us believe.
Yes.
Then, now you are seeing the masses kick against it, and not necessarily kicking against it, but speak up about the hardship that this has brought. And now it's as though you are playing to the gallery, and you're saying, okay, vote me in, and I'll bring back fuel subsidy. However, I love what the NDC presidential candidate talked about, Mr. Peter Obi. He said that he still remained on the same stand, that he's still going to remove fuel subsidy, still going to align on that. The major issue is the mismanagement of fuel subsidy proceeds,
I want to buy that.
which I totally agree with, because recently the federal government came out and said about 15 trillion naira has been saved from fuel subsidy.
Yeah, where you go to?
Question mark, big question mark. So where are those monies? Where have they been invested into? The NDC candidate talking about these funds should have been invested into things like healthcare, education, so that people will feel them. Then they are accounted for. So there is transparency. We know that, okay, 15 trillion has been saved, and this is how that 15 trillion naira has been used judiciously. And it is transparent. It's not just reported speech.
Yes.
So when there is that balance, then people will understand that, okay, in as much as we are giving up this, we are gaining it here. But now it's as though there is no fuel subsidy, the price of fuel is up, and nothing has relatively changed. So people are asking, shouldn't it come back? And I think that that's where the ADC presidential candidate now comes in and saying that it will bring subsidy. Now, there's also argument about even this conversation of fuel subsidy. What has it done? There's also subsidy in other aspects that we might not know. For example, I heard a report recently that is it tax waivers now in the port has accrued to about 32 trillion naira. Now, it begs the question, if you have saved fuel subsidy amount of 15 trillion naira, and now the country has lost about 32 trillion naira to tax waivers.
That's a lot. That doesn't add
so does the country now gain? So these are things that, and that's why some persons criticize the administration of President Bola Tinubu on how he went about the removal of fuel subsidy. For even people that subscribe to removal of fuel subsidy, they also criticize how he did it. It was as though there was no plan in motion when that statement, fuel subsidy is gone, was made.
Yes.
The president also concurred that it was not even part of his speech on that day. So it's as though there was no plan on ground. So it was like an impromptu decision. And we felt
impulsive.
Yes, impulsive. And we felt the ripple effect immediately, negative effect. Immediately. Until now, some persons will still argue and say that we are still feeling it. And a tenure is almost over still.
So then, Shore's argument was, I will not remove fuel subsidy because he's trying to fight for the poor. And when fuel subsidy is placed in the system, the poor,
the elites,
it helps the poor.
Okay.
If there is subsidy on fuel.
But some persons argue that the elites also benefit from fuel subsidy.
In fact, that was the
they benefit more.
That was the concern about the incumbent. He talked about how marketers were making so much money. One of the things I've asked, and it's a very sincere question, very, very maybe naive question, is if marketers were exploiting Nigeria over fuels, over the subsidized fuel that we enjoyed, I'm talking about the so-called poor enjoyed. If Nigeria was being exploited by a certain sector of marketers, where are those marketers right now? Is it ethical for them to have exploited the country through the fuel subsidy that was meant for the poor to enjoy? Is it legal for them to have sold fuel, subsidized fuel, to other countries for the exact amount of fuel was sold, while denying Nigerians of the so-called fuel that was subsidized for Nigerians? And if it's wrong ethically and legally, where are those marketers today? Why are the average Nigerians now poor Nigerians? Because there is a saying that we have two classes of Nigerians now, the rich and the poor. The middle class has somehow left the system, so we have only the very rich or the pretty poor. And if you think you are well-to-do and you earn over 300, 400,000 naira, do that in dollars and then come back and have a conversation with us. The truth is that the president himself has not been in denial about the state of the Nigerian state. In fact, many of his representatives, those who have stood for him, including Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, Mr. George Akume, they've all said that we are going through a particular phase in the country and there's going to be a better day later on. So we know that things right now.
When you say later on, how soon is later on? When tenure is almost over?
The work is going on. We cannot, you know the truth about this thing. If I want to be the angels or devil's advocate, depending on which side you're on, I would say that, it doesn't take an hour before day comes. It takes hours in the night before you find daylight. So we don't know how long it's going to take. But one thing we want to see is the body language, the seriousness, the commitment towards these things done. Now, if Nigerians, like I was saying, have endured so much, are enduring so much for the sufferings of the removal of fuel subsidy, what has happened to those marketers who were taking the monies outside this country, the fuel outside this country, and selling them subsidized fuel and making so much money? Why were they spared? And the next naive question, very naive and perhaps not proper, is why would we first remove subsidy? We should have first removed those marketers who were involved in the not so gallantry act of selling those unpatriotic act. Why wouldn't you go for those marketers? I think that they should have been the first target. After they have been sieved out of the system, then we can look at it and say, okay, maybe we can manage a subsidy. Because if you go to UAE, if you go to Saudi Arabia, if you go to many countries that produce oil, they have many things subsidized. One of these countries that is into oil production. even pays for the wedding ceremony of its citizens. Just
Oh well,
they pay for the wedding ceremonies.
Kano State Governor will argue with you that it's
Yes, he does that.
Yeah.
In fairness, Kano pays for mass weddings. Well, if you check the sum of money spent in that country, I've not done my research. I'll probably check on it. And maybe for the end of the program, tell you. They spend serious amount of dollars to sponsor wedding, get you a house, then you live happily ever after, just like it happened in Nigeria. Once upon a time in this country, and this is not Tales by Moonlight, Nigerians who graduate from school and be given a Peugeot car, made in Nigerian car, before they become civil servants. I'm not talking about bankers. I'm talking about civil servants, Ugaga, civil servants in the ministry. So when you are struggling with your suit and tie as a civil servant, you'd get a Peugeot car as well.
No,
so you can go to work
Let me pick up from
and be on time. When you get your query for being late, you have to tell your boss that despite having that Peugeot car, I came late to work. I mean, I'm sure you'll be feeling bad about not being punctual.
Now it's so sad that a couple of times when you want to talk, or some persons will even say most times when you want to talk about Nigeria, you have to say good old days.
Good old days, yeah. You must
So
talk about
sad.
good old days.
My dad also used to tell me back then that just being in final year,
Yeah.
as you're approaching your graduation, like industries, companies will come on campus to look for staff that they want to employ. It's not now that you're getting frustrated 2-3 years, you're saying you're a graduate, and now the slogan school na scam.
I don't blame them. Silly.
So my dad would tell me that. So as just being a graduate, just wanting to graduate, you have opportunities flocking around you. That's for that. Then for your questions that you ask, I think the answer to it is quite obvious. Nigeria is a country that has strong individuals, weak institutions, and that's what happens. When individuals are supposedly stronger than institutions, then institutions
more powerful than institutions.
Yes. They now play a role that institutions cannot enforce the law, and they get away with a lot of things, which is very, very terrible. I think it's time that we have strong and powerful institutions over individuals. And you know that irrespective of your status, you have somebody, even if you are the president, you have the legislature that has oversight function over you, that can impeach you. So I think we need to start working around having stronger institutions, powerful institutions.
Yeah,
We talk about the INEC. We talk about the judiciary not being influenced.
Talk about the law-making chambers.
Yes.
State and federal law-making chambers.
Fair bidding processes. So it's a whole lot. So, but I love what played out at the NBA. This is one of the things that Nigerians have been calling for. We want to hear intellectual debates.
Yes.
Do you understand? Let's know what you stand for, what you want to offer the people. About some persons have also criticized the incumbent president that he's one person that does not create that environment for people to have the conversation and know what he wants to offer to the people. Even when he was not the incumbent, when he was as an aspiring presidential candidate, he still didn't grant that kind of platform, going for debates, having conversations.
They hated one outside the country.
You can imagine. So those are the disturbing things that people raise up. Now, the people that you want to serve want to hear what you are cooking for them. What's on the menu?
And one of the strong points too that I've had from even other colleagues of ours who broadcast journalists have said they wish you would have an interview with Nigerian journalists. We might throw, as the three very still said, the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike for his very
Media.
anonymous media relationship.
Which people have actually criticized that if he does not answer your question, he's so impolite.
But at least he always grants interviews every now and then.
Is it interview or he says his mind?
He gives
A piece of his
he
mind.
gives the people the opportunity to hear from him directly.
Yes.
That has been in fairness to him.
In fairness, but I don't like his
Some of our
style.
colleagues have said that the president on his own has not made Nigerians know exactly how he feels. Most instances, we have his representative speaking. Notice that I talked
Even
about
at the NBA, it was his chief of staff that represented him.
Yeah, so you can tell. Bajabi Amila, Akume, they're the ones usually going to represent. Even sometimes, the Senate president goes to represent the president. Well, maybe it shows harmony in Nigerian government. At the same time, some will argue that that kind of harmony is not what they want to see. They want to see checks and balances, but that's not the conversation here. We just want a better Nigeria. We really want a better Nigeria, a country that can thrive, that can even strive to thrive. That's what we want to see in this country. We want to see the body language showing. Those who have criticized the country for, looking, maybe the executive looking like things are okay. Seeing the fleet of cars, seeing the comfort they have, the rest of them have said that this is too much. We're going through a tough time. So we want to see that body language. Then for all the political opponents, just like we've noted about one-time vice president, it's what we are noting. They keep on swaying according to what the people want. Whether you want to criticize the incumbent president or not, one thing you must know is that he looks like a very honest person. He tells you what he thinks. I think that we don't have time for subsidy. He says it plainly. But we're seeing a charade where many of these political opponents are coming to say what the people want to hear. And it looks to us that they're not making their proper research. Even Peter Obi has been criticized recently that every time he goes to a place, the first thing he says is something about, I think I've forgotten the place he went to recently, where he made a comment and people just got annoyed. Supporters of the incumbent president got annoyed. How many things are you going to fix at the same time? How realistic are all these charitable gestures of yours? Yes, we have many things to talk about the present now. But just yesterday on the program, I made an analogy with some of my panelists right here on set. I said, if you are a woman and you've had many men, many promising young men deal with you, batter you, take your monies, broken your heart repeatedly, and then you look forward and you see other promising men, you might not be able to differentiate who is promiscuous among the promising men because you've gone through a lot of ordeals. And when these promising men begin to make promises, you will not know who exactly, again, is the promiscuous one or the evil one. And that's the state where the Nigerian people are right now. Everyone, the good, the bad, and the ugly, are coming to make promises. This is not a time to be vulnerable. This is a time to think. Whether you love the president or not, ask questions. Whether you love Atiku Abubakar or not, ask questions. Probe his policies, probe his manifesto. Whether you love Peter Obi or not, probe him. Check details. Check the statistics being given out. Challenge him so that we don't make the same mistake. Let's not forget, and not to say that the late former president Buhari, who is late now, was a bad or good president. But let's not forget 2015 and the outcry for change. And how many Nigerians, I'm not talking whether he did good or not, but some people who voted for him and wanted that change became angry because all that they had in their pocket was now changed.
Well, he actually promised change, and whether you agree or not, he brought about change.
In different ways, good and maybe not so beautiful. So we must be careful to ask the necessary questions. If we had asked the questions about subsidy, and I'll say that again, for instance, that the three top candidates during the last elections all talked about removing fuel subsidy. But how many average Nigerians asked deep questions about how to go? Even us journalists too. How did we probe into this question? What is going to be the fate of the average Nigerian when the fuel subsidy is removed? We're asking other questions. And there are more things to ask about. One of them involves insecurity in the country. What is to be done? And like I spoke about, because now I'm mentioning names, something that during the peace accord, we're advised to avoid hate speech, cyberbullying, and the rest of them. The peace accord that we had, the IGP sent a representative on them, but that's that conversation. But we must begin to look deeply to understand how the way we are going in the country, understand how we are pushing for these things, and ask the necessary questions. That way we can have a better Nigeria. Security is one of them. And people criticize Peter Obi that he has refused to mention how it's going to change the outlook of security. And he has said that I have those. I remember he was talking to one of our colleagues at, I think, Shehu, and he told him clearly that I have my plans and I'll keep my plans until I become president. And he made a logical a point where he said that how many of the candidates, including the incumbent, has come to grant you an interview to tell you what their plans are. But in fairness, many Nigerians need to know, beyond getting to a political position, what can save this country. I dare say that you don't have to be the president to change Nigeria. You have to profile solutions to change Nigeria. We're at a point where we are dying. If you see a man carrying a baby and the baby is being burnt and you have water, would you wait to be someone who works with the fire service before you can help save that baby? Or would you use the water immediately? Where we are in this country, everyone has to act. And questions should be asked. How would you save the country? So also at the NBA conference, Ogaga, security was being discussed.
Yes, definitely.
The idea of state police and the rest of them was another big conversation. And we know that state police sounds good, but if you don't dot I's and cross T's, you're going to have more problems. You're going to jump from the frying pan to the volcano, literally. Because it was Chimamanda who came to this country and began to look at the Nigerian constitution and correct it. I was looking at the phrases used and how it could be manipulated in this country. So before we begin to make these laws, let's ensure that those I's are dotted and those T's are crossed before we get Nigerians crossed, really. And that's what I'll appeal, first of all.
Yeah,
I'll talk about insecurity now.
Yeah, yes. So for the state police, that's why I like the conversation that's going on, and there are different engagements with stakeholders to know how it can properly be managed, because it's something that, if not properly managed and monitored, it can be a dangerous tool in the hands of governors, actually. So I like the consultations that are ongoing. As a matter of fact, the period was extended for a certain period of time beyond the initial period, and which is good. Mine is, I just hope that somehow, and that's why we always clamor for the judiciary to be truly independent. Because in a situation like this, when all of this is done, the NBA should have a strong voice.
Yes, it should.
Before it is passed into law. Because as it is said, the legislature, all they do is create the law. It is the judiciary that interprets the law. So if proper interpretation is not given to whatsoever is agreed on, it might come back to haunt us.
Yeah, it does.
So that's why the NBA needs to have a voice. They need to speak up. The judiciary needs to be independent, not using ambiguous tenses and words and adjectives that whenever an issue arises and you can spin it to suit your own narrative and your own personal gain. So this is something that should be looked into. But state police, I think, is something I totally support, because I've always had the argument that, for example, if you post a security person from outside, I mean, let's say you bring somebody from, let's say Dennis Osadebe University, still within Asaba, and you bring the person to DBS here. If there is something, I know the hidden places, me as a staff here. I know the nook and cranny here. I know how to navigate my way here. So I will do better.
You understand your terrain.
Yes. So that's why I love that. I prefer state police and all of that. But of course, security experts have to look deeper beyond all of these and see how to be managed. Of course, those persons that were kind of a little bit skeptical and maybe unsettled if they were going to lose their jobs, they've been assured that no federal police officer is going to lose their job. As a matter of fact, there might even be more recruitment, more job openings and job creation. So it's a good thing. I just hope that it's properly implemented and left to me before. It's not looking like something that is possible, but I would have actually loved it if it was something that was implemented before the end of this tenure. Although in Nigeria, it's almost like the incumbent always returns, except save for the case of Goodluck Jonathan. Because in a situation where there is a change of administration of government,
it'll be another start.
Yeah, so we know it's difficult. Hardly most times do we see a continuum in government, except it's a situation where, although they might not agree, but let me use the word political allies. Let me not use godfatherism. If it's a situation of political allies, that's where in the situation
continue the process. That was what the president said about the state of insecurity in the country. He defended the idea of state policing, but he maintained that they have to look into it. And he said state governors might exploit it for their own
personal gains.
And he didn't take it lightly that he would just be reeled out like that upon Nigerians. Then several other people there, several other top politicians had their own thoughts about how to save the country of insecurity within the country. Shuore was the one who talked about how we need to provide more funding generally for the police and see how they can do better. Rotimi Amaechi talked about intelligence gathering. If we can gather more intelligence, we can indeed help our police to do what they have to do better, then Peter Obi linked insecurity to poverty and unemployment. And we know that that's the angle that Peter Obi was going to go for because he's an economist and he's always thinking about social security as a means of curbing other level of insecurity that bedevils the country. They're all right, all of them. Whether you talk about giving the police more money, it's because one day I was on the road and I saw policemen, just doing what they do often, stopping vehicles and collecting monies. And somebody asked, "Is that your salary?" And another half of the passenger there said, "Yes, that's your salary." They probably have taken loans with their salaries, and this is how they make ends meet right here. So while you're hustling at your place of work, this is how they feed their family. Because, and then you think about it, and you know that the police needs serious funds. And then intelligence gathering is also critical, like Rotimi Amechi pointed out. Importantly, the point of reactive security in this country, it's high time it stopped. Because when you react, 10 people would have died. And we have lost sensitivity in Nigeria. When buildings collapse, people are killed, people are butchered, we look at numbers. In fact, sometimes if it's not about 10 people, it doesn't make it to the news. We argue several arguments whether you are publicizing terrorist activities to give it more credence and give the terrorists more impetus to continue. But then how about building collapse that we have now taken for granted now in Nigeria? So intelligence gathering is critical so that we can curtail, we can prevent, we can be proactive rather than reactive. They were all right. I think there was another one who pushed for policing at all cases of government. That was Adewale Adebayo who pushed for it. They're all right. But we need to sit down, act intentionally, albeit fast, because time is going and souls are leaving the country. When we come back, we shall look at the headlines this morning. That's only on Tuesday's Morning Ride. Do stay with us.